Call whoever you want, Derek Sloan said, leaning against the hood of a black Sentinel vehicle like the road belonged to him. Caleb Mercer glanced at the portable barrier stretched across the gravel, then at the camera somebody had strapped to his fence post. 3 security vehicles sat nearly half a mile inside Mercer Ridge Ranch. 2 fresh signs read Stonehaven Security Zone. Caleb looked back at Derek. I already did. The smile stayed on Derek's face. Good. Maybe they can explain this to you. Maybe. Caleb checked his watch. 9:17. The younger guard standing near the barrier shifted his weight. Derek, you sure we are supposed to be this far in? Derek did not look at him. Vanessa cleared it. Caleb heard that and almost laughed. For months, Vanessa Whitmore had been clearing things she did not own. Roads, gates, patrol routes. Now apparently half a mile of somebody else's ranch. Caleb pointed toward the signs. Those come down. The camera too. Then you take your vehicles back through my gate. Derek folded his arms. We have authorization. From Vanessa? From the association. Same problem. Derek's expression tightened. Mr. Mercer, we have been using this road for months. I know. I have the videos. That took a little of the confidence out of the younger guard. He looked toward the cottonwood tree beside the road and finally noticed the trail camera mounted above them. Derek noticed it too. You recording us? It is my fence. My camera. My ranch. Caleb nodded toward the barrier. And that is your junk sitting in the middle of it. Derek pushed away from the vehicle. Look, I am trying to keep this civil. Then we finally agree on something. Stonehaven has an access right through here. We are responsible for security. You keep interfering with patrol operations, you are going to have to deal with the board's attorneys. Caleb stared at him for a moment. Derek, do you know what the easement actually says? I know what I was told. That was not my question. Derek said nothing. Caleb had the answer sitting in a manila envelope on the passenger seat of his pickup. Certified county records. The survey. The easement. Copies of the notices Vanessa and Sentinel had already received. He could have spread everything across the hood and argued line by line. A month earlier, he probably would have. Not anymore. He had learned something about Vanessa Whitmore. Every time Caleb tried to explain where her authority ended, she treated the explanation as an invitation to push one step farther. So he stopped explaining. He started keeping records. The first Sentinel vehicle crossing the ranch. The first guard stopping one of Caleb's workers. The first security sign planted beside the road. The morning they replaced his lock. Dates, photographs, emails, camera footage. Vanessa had left a trail because she never believed anyone would make her answer for it. Derek glanced at Caleb's pickup. You bring more paperwork? Enough. Then give it to the lawyers. Caleb shook his head. They can get copies. The younger guard looked down the road. What are we doing if he does not let us through? Derek answered without hesitation. We stay. Caleb's face changed just slightly. Not anger. More like disappointment. I have asked you 3 times to leave. Derek gave a short laugh. And I have told you 3 times we are authorized to be here. All right. Caleb stepped away from the barrier. The wind rolled across the pasture and lifted a thin sheet of Wyoming dust along the road. Somewhere behind them, cattle shifted near the creek. Otherwise, the ranch was quiet. Derek looked pleased with himself. That is it. That is it. No fourth warning. Caleb checked his watch again. Would not do much good. Derek smiled at the other guards. See? We are making progress. Then the younger guard squinted toward the western rise. A pale cloud of dust had appeared beyond it. Somebody coming. Derek turned. Caleb did not. He already knew. The vehicle came over the rise slowly, sunlight catching the windshield before the markings on the door became visible. The younger guard stopped smiling. Derek stood straight and took his arms off his chest. A county sheriff's vehicle was coming down the ranch road. Caleb reached through the open window of his pickup and took the manila envelope from the passenger seat. Derek watched him. You called the sheriff over a road? Caleb tucked the envelope under his arm. No. For the first time that morning, Derek looked uncertain. Then why is he here? Caleb finally looked toward the approaching vehicle. You will have to ask him. 3 months earlier, the same road had been so quiet Caleb could leave his coffee on a fence post while checking cattle and come back 10 minutes later without seeing another vehicle. Mercer Ridge covered 860 acres of open Wyoming pasture, cottonwoods, creek bottom, and low hills that turned gold when the sun dropped behind them. Caleb was 57 and had spent most of his life there. His grandfather had worked the property before Stonehaven Estates was anything more than empty ground beyond the eastern fence. His father had kept it going after that, and Caleb had never seriously considered living anywhere else. He was not interested in fighting with the people who eventually moved into Stonehaven. Most of them were decent neighbors. One winter, he pulled a resident's sport utility vehicle out of a snowbank with his ranch truck. In the spring, families sometimes stopped along the county road so their children could watch the calves in the pasture. Caleb waved. They waved back. That arrangement suited him fine. Then Vanessa Whitmore became president of the Stonehaven Homeowners Association. Caleb first met her at a county meeting about drainage improvements. She was organized, confident, and clearly accustomed to getting through an agenda without wasting time. Caleb had no reason to dislike her. Trouble started because of a gravel road running across the northeastern corner of Mercer Ridge. Years earlier, Caleb's father had worked with the county to create an emergency access route through the ranch. The road could save valuable time if firefighters or an ambulance needed to reach the northern end of what later became Stonehaven. The agreement was simple. Emergency responders could cross the property when needed. Caleb had never charged anyone, never blocked an ambulance, and never considered doing so. Then Stonehaven expanded. More homes went up along the northern section, and the association hired Sentinel Community Patrol to increase private security. Their regular patrol route had one inconvenience: to move between the northern and southern ends of Stonehaven without crossing Mercer Ridge. Sentinel vehicles had to travel nearly 7 extra miles around the public road. Vanessa saw Caleb's gravel road and saw an obvious shortcut. Her first call came on a Thursday afternoon while Caleb was repairing a water line near the equipment barn. "Caleb, I think we can solve a problem for both of us," she said. "I did not know we had one." Vanessa laughed politely. "Sentinel needs occasional access across your eastern road. Nothing disruptive. One vehicle at a time." Caleb wiped dirt from his hand and leaned against the workbench. "That road is private. There is already an easement. For emergency services, right? So access already exists." Caleb paused. "For emergency services, Vanessa. We are talking about neighborhood safety. Private security is not an ambulance." Her voice cooled slightly. "Our attorney may interpret the language differently." "Then have your attorney read it." There was a short silence. "You are saying no? I thought I already did." The call ended without shouting, threats, or anything Caleb considered serious. He assumed Vanessa would check the paperwork and move on. 2 days later, somebody left a Stonehaven planning map beneath the windshield wiper of his pickup. A blue line had been drawn from the subdivision directly across Mercer Ridge. Beside it were 4 handwritten words: "Proposed security access route." Caleb carried the map inside and placed it on his desk. He still thought somebody was getting ahead of themselves. The following Monday, he called the county recorder and confirmed that nothing had changed. Mercer Ridge remained outside Stonehaven. The emergency easement remained exactly what it had always been. That should have settled it. Friday morning, Caleb was drinking coffee in his office when his phone buzzed. One of the trail cameras near the eastern gate had detected movement. He opened the image expecting a delivery truck or maybe Tyler Bennett arriving early. Instead, a black Sentinel sport utility vehicle was coming through his gate. Caleb set down the coffee. The vehicle continued west along the private road, past the survey marker, and drove nearly 2 miles across Mercer Ridge. Caleb grabbed his keys and caught up with it near the creek crossing. Derek Sloan lowered his window when Caleb pulled alongside. "Morning," Derek said. "You lost?" Caleb asked. Derek smiled. "No, sir. New patrol route. Not through here." Vanessa said it was cleared. Caleb pointed back toward the fence line. "Stonehaven ends at that marker." Derek glanced toward it. "I'm just following the route they gave me." "Fair enough. Now you know." Derek studied Caleb for a second, then nodded. "I will check with the office." "Appreciate it." Derek turned the vehicle around and drove back toward Stonehaven. Caleb watched him disappear through the eastern gate and honestly believed the matter was finished. 3 nights later, his phone buzzed again. This time there were 2 black Sentinel vehicles on the road. The 2 Sentinel vehicles crossed Mercer Ridge at 7:14 that evening. Caleb knew because the trail camera recorded both license plates as they passed the eastern gate. He called Vanessa before going after them. She answered on the 4th ring. "Vanessa, your security people are on my ranch again. They are using the access road. We already discussed that." And I told you our attorney was reviewing it. Caleb looked through the office window toward the road. Reviewing something does not make it yours. Vanessa exhaled. Caleb, nobody is taking your ranch. Then get your people off it. They are driving on one road. My road. Another pause. This is exactly why we have attorneys. Good. Have one call me after they read the easement. Caleb hung up, climbed into his pickup, and found the Sentinel vehicles near the north pasture. Derek Sloan was standing beside one of them talking to another guard. When he saw Caleb, he gave an apologetic shrug. I checked with the office. And they said the route is approved. By who? Stonehaven. Caleb looked at him. Derek, Stonehaven can approve you to drive around Stonehaven all night long. This is Mercer Ridge. Derek rubbed the back of his neck. I am not looking for a fight with you. Neither am I. Turn around. This time Derek did. For the next few days, nothing happened. Then one vehicle crossed on Thursday. Another came through Saturday morning. By the end of the following week, Caleb was seeing Sentinel 3 or 4 times a day. What had started as a shortcut was becoming a routine. He stopped chasing every vehicle. Instead, he opened a yellow legal pad and began writing down dates and times. Tyler Bennett noticed it one morning while drinking coffee in the ranch office. You keeping score? Tyler asked. Apparently. Who is winning? Caleb looked toward another camera alert on his phone. Ask me when they learn where the fence is. Tyler laughed. Caleb did too, but the humor disappeared 2 days later when Tyler called from the north pasture. Caleb, I have a weird one. What happened? One of those security guys stopped me. Stopped you where? By the mineral shed. Caleb sat up. The mineral shed was almost a mile inside Mercer Ridge. What did he want? My identification. Asked what business I had near Stonehaven. Caleb looked out his office window. What did you tell him? That my business was feeding your cattle. Caleb found Derek 20 minutes later parked beside the ranch road. Your guy stopped one of my employees. Derek nodded. We are checking traffic near the community, a mile inside my ranch. People use this road to approach Stonehaven. My cattle use this road too. You planning to check their identification? Derek almost smiled, then thought better of it. We need to know who is coming through. No, you do not. Caleb, Derek, watch the Stonehaven side of the fence all you want. Put 10 guards over there. Put up 20 cameras. I do not care. But you do not stop my people on my property. Derek looked tired now rather than confident. You need to talk to Vanessa. I have. Then talk to her again. Caleb shook his head. You are the one standing here. That afternoon he emailed Vanessa. He kept it short. Sentinel did not have permission to patrol Mercer Ridge, question ranch employees, or use the private road for routine security operations. Her response arrived the next morning. She thanked him for his concerns and wrote that Stonehaven was operating under established access provisions. Caleb read that phrase twice. Established access. 5 weeks earlier, Vanessa had asked permission to use the road. Now she was writing as though the permission had existed all along. He printed the email and placed it beside the easement. The next escalation came before sunrise on Monday. Tyler found a metal sign planted beside the gravel road and called Caleb over. Stonehaven Security Patrol Area. Tyler stared at it. Did we sell the ranch while I was asleep? Caleb crouched beside the sign. Must have missed the closing. Tyler laughed, but Caleb was already looking toward the cottonwood tree 30 yards away. The trail camera had a clear view. Back at the office, they pulled up the recording. A Sentinel employee had installed the sign at 5:38 that morning. Derek's vehicle was parked behind him. Caleb saved the footage, drove back, photographed the sign where it stood, then pulled it carefully from the ground. Vanessa called before lunch. You removed association property. From my property. That sign marks an active security route. No, it marks the spot where your employee drove a metal stake into my ranch. Her patience finally slipped. We have been using that road for over a month, Caleb. After I told you no. Repeated use matters. Caleb went quiet. There was something different in the way she said it. Not convenience. Not safety. Strategy. Vanessa, are you trying to tell me that because you ignored me long enough, the road became yours? I am telling you access rights are more complicated than you think. Caleb looked at the easement lying open on his desk. Maybe, but the word emergency is pretty easy to understand. Vanessa ended the call. That evening, Caleb reviewed the previous week's camera footage. In one clip, Derek had stopped near the gate with another guard. Their windows were down. The other man asked whether Caleb was going to keep complaining. Derek laughed. Vanessa says keep using the road. The rancher will give in. Caleb replayed it once. Then he saved a second copy. The next morning, 3 Sentinel vehicles came through the gate together. 3 Sentinel vehicles came through the eastern gate at 8:06 Tuesday morning. But this time, they did not stay together. One stopped near the boundary. The second continued toward the creek. The third turned toward the cattle pens. Caleb watched the camera alerts appear on his phone while Tyler stood beside him in the ranch office. Looks like we got our own parade, Tyler said. Caleb reached for his keys. Do me a favor. Stay with the cattle. You want company? No. I want a witness who is not standing in the middle of an argument. Tyler nodded. That sounds suspiciously responsible. Do not spread it around. Caleb found Derek near the eastern gate. One guard was writing down license plate numbers from 2 ranch trucks parked nearby. Another was taking pictures of the road. Derek had a radio in his hand. Morning, Caleb. What is this? Routine patrol. Caleb pointed at the guard with the notepad. Why is he recording my trucks? Traffic documentation. They are parked on my ranch. We are keeping a record of vehicles using the corridor. Caleb looked at Derek for a long second. There is no corridor. Derek sighed. We have been over this. Yes, that is the problem. Caleb took out his phone and photographed the vehicles, the guards, and their positions. Derek watched him. You really think pictures are going to settle this? No. The property records will. Then let the lawyers handle it. Happy to. Until then, leave. Derek's radio crackled. He stepped away to answer it. Caleb heard enough to understand that another Sentinel guard had stopped a delivery truck farther up the road. His phone rang almost immediately. Mr. Mercer? A driver asked. I have fencing supplies for you, but security says I need clearance. Caleb closed his eyes for half a second. Where are you? About a mile past the east gate. Stay there. I am coming. When Caleb arrived, the driver was sitting behind the wheel while a Sentinel guard stood beside the truck. Caleb walked over. He is delivering to me. The guard said, we just need to verify access. You do not need to verify anything. Let him through. Derek told us all vehicles have to be checked. Caleb pointed toward the pasture. That man has $2,000 of fencing in his truck and a schedule to keep. Move your vehicle. The guard called Derek. Derek called Vanessa. Vanessa called Caleb before the delivery truck reached the equipment barn. You cannot keep interfering with security procedures. Caleb almost laughed. Vanessa, your people stopped my delivery on my ranch. They are monitoring traffic approaching Stonehaven. He was approaching my barn. The road connects to our community. So does the county highway. You planning to set up there too? That is not the same thing. Exactly. Vanessa went quiet. Caleb continued. I am sending you something today. Read it this time. If this is another email about your interpretation of the easement, certified notice. You will get a copy. The board will get copies. Sentinel will get one too. Her voice hardened. Are you threatening legal action? I am putting something in writing because talking to you is not working. He ended the call. That afternoon, Caleb prepared a formal notice stating that Mercer Ridge was private property. Stonehaven had no permission to conduct routine patrols there, and the recorded easement applied to authorized emergency services. He attached the property map and sent copies by certified mail to Vanessa, every board member, and Sentinel's office. Then something strange happened. The ranch went quiet. No black vehicles Wednesday. None Thursday. Friday passed without a single camera alert from Sentinel. Tyler walked into the office late Friday afternoon and tapped the yellow legal pad. Maybe they finally learned to read. Caleb leaned back in his chair. I would settle for learning where the gate is. For the first time in weeks, they both thought it might be over. Saturday morning proved otherwise. Tyler called at 7:32. You need to come north. Sentinel. Yeah. His voice had lost the humor. And bring your phone. Caleb found Derek near the cattle pens beside a new metal post. Another Stonehaven security patrol area sign had been installed, farther inside the ranch than the first one. Caleb walked straight to Derek. Did you receive my notice? Yes. Did Sentinel receive it? Yes. Then why are you here? Derek looked toward the sign. Stonehaven disputes your position. That was not the question. My instructions are to continue the patrol. Caleb nodded slowly. All right. Now I know. Know what? That this is not a misunderstanding anymore. Derek looked away. Caleb photographed the sign and the vehicle, then asked him to leave. Derek gave a tired laugh. Send another letter if it makes you feel better. Caleb did not answer. That evening, an envelope arrived from Stonehaven. The notice inside accused him of interfering with community security operations and warned that continued obstruction could lead to legal action. Caleb carried it into his office, laid it beside the easement, and stared at the two documents. One came from the county and described a narrow emergency rite of passage. The other came from Vanessa and acted as though Caleb were the trespasser. Monday morning, he called the county recorder. I need certified copies of everything tied to the road on Mercer Ridge. The clerk pulled up the file. No problem. You are actually the second request recently. Caleb stopped writing. Second, Stonehaven requested the same records. When? She gave him the date. Caleb looked at Vanessa's letter again. She had obtained the deed, the survey, and the easement weeks before sending it. Did they get the full easement? He asked. Yes, sir. Complete certified copy. Caleb thanked her and hung up. For several seconds, he sat alone in the office, listening to the clock above the filing cabinet. Vanessa had seen the boundary. She had seen the word emergency. She had seen exactly what the road allowed. And she had sent her people back anyway. Caleb did not call Vanessa after learning she had already seen the county records. There was nothing left to explain. Instead, he waited until Thursday evening and drove into Stonehaven for the monthly board meeting. The community room was nearly full when he arrived. Vanessa sat at the center of a long table beneath the association seal, with 6 board members beside her. Derek Sloan stood near the back wall in his Sentinel uniform. Caleb took a chair in the last row. Vanessa noticed him immediately, but said nothing. For 40 minutes, the meeting stayed ordinary. Landscaping, pool repairs, a complaint about recreational vehicles parked in driveways. Then Vanessa reached the security report. Sentinel has completed the Eastern Patrol expansion, she said. A map appeared on the screen behind her. Caleb recognized the blue line immediately. It crossed straight through Mercer Ridge. Vanessa pointed to it. This route reduces response time to the northern section and has been in continuous use for several months. Thomas Hale, a board member sitting 2 seats down from Vanessa, leaned toward his microphone. Is that the ranch road? Part of the eastern access corridor, Vanessa said. Thomas looked at the map again. Does the association own it? We have documented access rights. Caleb watched Vanessa carefully. She did not say Stonehaven owned the road. She did not say Caleb had agreed. She chose words that sounded complete without actually answering the question. Thomas was not satisfied. Does the easement specifically allow Sentinel to patrol there? Vanessa shuffled a page in front of her. Council is reviewing the scope. Then why are we already using it? The room became noticeably quieter. Vanessa's smile tightened. Because access has been established through consistent use, and suspending patrols now would create an unnecessary security gap. Caleb finally stood. Vanessa looked toward him. Mr. Mercer, homeowners have the floor during public comment. I only have one question. Then you can ask it during public comment. Thomas glanced toward the board secretary. I would like to hear the question. Vanessa did not look pleased, but she nodded. Caleb kept his voice even. Are the words established access going into the official minutes? Vanessa stared at him. Excuse me. You said Sentinel has established access through consistent use. Is that being recorded? The board secretary looked down at her laptop. Yes. Caleb nodded. Thank you. Vanessa leaned toward her microphone. Since you are here, perhaps you would like to explain why you have repeatedly interfered with the security route residents now depend on. Caleb looked at the homeowners sitting between them. Sure. She asked me for permission 3 months ago. I said no. A few people turned toward Vanessa. Caleb continued. Then Sentinel started using the road anyway. Vanessa cut in. That is your interpretation. No. That was our phone call. The easement predates that conversation. For ambulances and fire crews. For access. Caleb shook his head. Read the whole sentence. Thomas looked at Vanessa. Have we? She did not answer him directly. Instead, she told Caleb the matter belonged with attorneys, not in a public argument. Caleb agreed. That is probably the first thing we have agreed on tonight. He sat down. After the meeting, Thomas caught him near the parking lot. Caleb, can I ask you something? Sure. Did you ever sign anything giving Stonehaven patrol access? No. Not even temporarily? No. Thomas lowered his voice. Vanessa told us this was an existing route that you had recently started objecting to. Caleb looked back toward the building. She asked me before the first patrol ever crossed. Thomas frowned. You have that in writing? Some of it. And the easement. Certified copy coming from the county. Thomas nodded slowly. I think the board needs to see it. They will. 2 mornings later, Tyler called from the north side of the ranch. Caleb, you better get up here. What now? Derek stopped the cattle trailer. Caleb grabbed his jacket. Where? Secondary gate. Tyler paused. And somebody changed the lock. Caleb was already moving. When he arrived, Tyler's truck and trailer were sitting on the ranch road with 20 head of cattle waiting behind him. Derek stood beside the gate. A new lock hung from the chain, and another Stonehaven sign had been fixed to the post. Caleb got out slowly. Who changed my lock? Derek glanced at the gate. Stonehaven secured the access point this morning. Secured it from who? We are coordinating traffic during patrol hours. Tyler leaned out his window. I have cattle in this trailer. I am not sitting here all morning because your homeowners association discovered padlocks. Derek ignored him. Caleb stepped closer to the gate and looked at the new lock. Open it. I cannot do that without clearance. Caleb turned toward him. Clearance from who? Vanessa. For the first time in months, Caleb's patience showed a crack. You changed the lock on my gate, on my ranch, and now you are telling me I need Vanessa Whitmore's permission to move my cattle? Derek lowered his voice. Caleb, take it up with her. Caleb stared at him, then pulled out his phone and photographed the lock, the sign, the trailer, and Derek standing beside all three. No, he said. I am done taking things up with Vanessa. He turned to Tyler. Take the west road. Tyler looked at the cattle behind him. That adds 9 miles. I know. As the trailer turned around, Caleb remained beside the locked gate. He had spent months trying not to turn a neighbor dispute into something bigger. Vanessa had just done it for him. Caleb left the new lock exactly where Sentinel had put it. Tyler had expected him to cut it off, but Caleb shook his head. Not yet. Tyler looked back at the gate. You are more patient than I am. No. I just want them to explain that lock to somebody besides me. The cattle trailer had already taken the western route, adding 9 miles to a trip that should have been routine. Caleb wrote down the mileage, the delay, and the time Tyler had been stopped. Then he drove into town with Vanessa's notice on the passenger seat. At the county recorder's office, the clerk handed him certified copies of the Mercer Ridge deed, the current survey, and the emergency easement. Caleb laid the documents side by side at the counter. The property line was clear. So was the easement. County fire, medical, and other authorized emergency services could use the designated road during official emergency response. Caleb tapped the page. This is the same copy Stonehaven requested? Same recorded document, the clerk said. Nothing added since. Nothing. And they got the full copy. She gave him a look that said she understood why he was asking. Every page. Caleb thanked her, slid the documents into a manila envelope, and drove to the sheriff's office. Sheriff Daniel. Reeves met him in a small office near the front desk. Reeves had known Caleb for years, but Caleb did not ask him to take sides. He placed the envelope on the desk. I need you to tell me what I am supposed to do before this gets any dumber. Reeves raised an eyebrow. That bad? They changed the lock on my gate. Who did? Stonehaven's security company. That got Reeves's attention. Caleb walked him through the problem from the beginning. Vanessa's request. His refusal. The patrol vehicles. Tyler being stopped. The signs. The certified notices. Finally, the lock. Reeves read the easement twice. I am going to have the county attorney look at this before I tell anybody what rights they do or do not have. Fine by me. Property access can get messy. That is why I brought paper instead of a temper. Reeves almost smiled. Good choice. He asked whether Sentinel had received Caleb's written notice. Caleb handed him the certified delivery records. Then he showed him photographs of the signs and the changed lock. Last came the trail camera clip. Derek's voice played through the phone. Vanessa says keep using the road. The rancher will give in. Reeves looked at Caleb when the clip ended. You have the original file? And 2 copies. Send me one. Already planned on it. Reeves leaned back. I will call Mrs. Whitmore today. Until the county attorney reviews this, I am going to tell her the smart thing is to stop expanding whatever they think they are doing out there. You think she will listen? Reeves gave him a dry look. You are the one who brought me a folder this thick. 20 minutes after Caleb left the sheriff's office, Vanessa called. You went to the sheriff? No, hello. Caleb pulled his pickup onto the shoulder before answering. Yes. Why? He looked at the phone. You changed my lock. Sentinel secured an access point. On my gate. Caleb, this could have been handled between us. He laughed once, more from disbelief than humor. We tried that. Now you are making a civil property question look like some kind of criminal matter. I did not call it anything. I showed him the records. Vanessa went quiet. Caleb continued. Did Sheriff Reeves call you? He did. What did he say? He gave me his opinion. That is not what I asked. He suggested we pause additional activity while the county reviews the easement. Sounds reasonable. It sounds like surrender. Caleb frowned. There it was. Not safety. Not response times. Winning. Vanessa, nobody is asking you to surrender anything. Just keep your people on your property until this is sorted out. If we withdraw now, you will use that as proof we never had access. You never had access. She ended the call. For 4 days, no Sentinel vehicle crossed Mercer Ridge. The cameras showed deer, cattle, Tyler's truck, and nothing else. Then Thomas Hale called. I thought you should know, he said. Vanessa held an executive session last night. About the road? Mostly. Some of us told her Sentinel needs to stay out until the documents are reviewed. What did she say? Thomas hesitated. That pulling back now would weaken Stonehaven's position. Caleb looked across the pasture. She told me the same thing. The next afternoon, Sheriff Reeves called. County attorney reviewed the recorded easement. Caleb sat forward. And, based on what you gave us, there is nothing in that language authorizing routine private security patrols. It is emergency access. That is it. Caleb let out a slow breath. So what happens now? I have told Stonehaven not to treat that road like they have authority they cannot document. If they think they have some separate legal claim, they can take it through the proper process. Fair enough. Reeves paused. Call me if they come back. For the first time in weeks, Caleb thought maybe that call would not be necessary. At 6:18 the following evening, his phone buzzed. Trail camera alert. He opened it. A black Sentinel vehicle came through the eastern gate. Then a second. Then a third. Caleb watched Derek step out near the secondary gate and unload a portable barrier. Another guard carried 2 Stonehaven security signs. A third began fastening a camera to Caleb's fence post. Caleb stared at the screen for a moment, then called Reeves. Sheriff, remember when you said to call if they came back? Reeves was quiet for half a second. They came back. They brought equipment. Where are you? At the ranch house. Stay calm. I am heading your way. Caleb looked at the live camera feed. I am calm. He picked up the manila envelope. I am just done waiting. Caleb reached the secondary gate before Sheriff Reeves did. 3 Sentinel vehicles were spread along the gravel road, and the portable barrier now blocked enough of the lane that Tyler could not have gotten a cattle trailer through without stopping. One security sign stood beside the gate. Another had been planted farther down the road. The new camera was strapped to a fence post Caleb had replaced himself the previous summer. Derek Sloan stood near the lead vehicle with a radio in one hand. He saw Caleb's pickup and walked toward him. Before you start, I know what you are going to say. Caleb shut off the engine and stepped out. That should save us time. Derek glanced at the manila envelope under Caleb's arm. More paperwork. Same paperwork. Nobody seems to finish reading it. One of the younger guards turned away, hiding a smile. Derek did not. We have instructions to maintain the route. From Vanessa? From Stonehaven. Derek, I spoke to the sheriff yesterday. The county attorney reviewed the easement. Derek's eyes narrowed. I have not heard anything about that. Maybe ask why. I do not work for the county. No. You work for a homeowners association standing on somebody else's ranch. Derek lowered his voice. I work for Sentinel. Stonehaven is our client. Then your client is putting you in a bad spot. That landed differently. Derek glanced toward the other guards before answering. Vanessa says the access issue is still being disputed. She can dispute it from her side of the fence. Caleb pointed toward the camera. Take that down. I cannot. The signs too. Caleb, I have orders. And I own the fence. Derek exhaled through his nose. This is going nowhere. It could. Your vehicles have wheels. The younger guard looked down again. Derek shot him a glance, then turned back to Caleb. We are not leaving. Caleb nodded. All right. That is it. No. I am asking one last time so nobody gets confused. Later. Remove the barrier. Take down the signs and camera. Drive back through my gate. Derek looked at the other guards, then gave a short laugh. Call whoever you want. Caleb checked his watch. Already did. Derek leaned against the hood of the Sentinel vehicle. Good. Maybe they can explain this to you. Maybe. For a few seconds, the only sound was wind moving through the grass. Then Tyler's pickup appeared from the west and slowed about 50 yards from the checkpoint. Tyler lowered his window. You need me? Caleb shook his head. Just stay there. Derek raised a hand toward Tyler. He needs to stop before entering the controlled area. Tyler stared at him. The what? Controlled area? Tyler looked at Caleb. Did I miss another closing? Caleb almost smiled. Apparently. Derek stepped toward the road. Sir, stay where you are. Tyler rested an arm on the open window. I work here. We are screening traffic. For what? Derek's patience was disappearing. Stonehaven security. Tyler looked around at miles of open ranch. Stonehaven is over there. He pointed east. You should probably go find it. Caleb raised a hand before the exchange went any further. Tyler, wait by the creek. Tyler nodded and backed his pickup away. Derek shook his head. This is exactly the interference Vanessa was talking about. Caleb set the manila envelope on the hood of his truck. You want to know what is in there? Not particularly. Certified deed. Survey. Easement. Delivery receipts for the notices your company signed for. County attorney's review. Derek's expression changed at the last item. What review? The one saying this easement does not authorize your patrol. Let me see it. Caleb handed him the page. Derek read the first few lines, then went back to the top and read them again. When did you get this? Yesterday. Vanessa knows? Sheriff Reeves spoke to her before that. She knew the county was reviewing it. Derek looked toward his vehicle. She told us this morning the legal position had not changed. Maybe you should ask her what she meant. Derek pulled out his phone. Before he could make the call, the younger guard looked toward the western. Rise. Derek. Nobody answered him. Derek, we have a vehicle coming. Caleb did not turn around. He had already heard tires on gravel. Derek looked past him as a cloud of dust rose above the road. That your ranch hand again? Caleb picked up the envelope. No. The vehicle came over the rise, and the county markings became visible in the evening sun. Derek stopped dialing. Sheriff Daniel Reeves slowed as he approached the barrier and parked a few yards away. For the first time since Caleb had met him, Derek seemed unsure where to stand. Reeves stepped out, looked at the Sentinel vehicles, the signs, the barrier, and finally the camera attached to Caleb's fence. He shut his door and walked toward them. Derek straightened his uniform. Sheriff, I can explain. Reeves glanced at the sign beside the road. Good, he said. Start with why you have a checkpoint on Mr. Mercer's ranch. Reeves did not raise his voice. He did not need to. Derek looked at the barrier, then at Vanessa's security sign, as if he had only just realized how the scene might look to someone who had not spent months hearing Stonehaven's version of it. We are maintaining an authorized access route, Derek said. Reeves nodded toward the page still in Derek's hand. The route the county attorney reviewed yesterday? Derek hesitated. I was just shown that. Then you know what it says. I know what Caleb says it says. Reeves held out his hand. Let me save you some trouble. I spoke with the county attorney myself. Derek gave him the page. Reeves glanced at it, then looked toward the camera strapped to the fence. Who authorized that? Stonehaven. Who owns the fence? Derek did not answer. Caleb did. I do. Reeves pointed toward the barrier. And the road. Mercer Ridge. Derek tried again. Sheriff, our client has a recorded easement. For emergency services. Vanessa says the association has broader access rights. Reeves looked at him. Then Vanessa can show me the document. As if the timing had been arranged, Derek's phone rang. He checked the screen. That is her. Tell her where we are, Reeves said. Derek answered, walked a few steps away, and spoke quietly. Less than 15 minutes later, a white sport utility vehicle came through the eastern gate. Vanessa Whitmore stepped out carrying a thick binder against her chest. She walked straight toward Reeves. Sheriff, I wish you had called me before coming out here. Reeves looked around. I did call you. 4 days ago. Vanessa stopped. I mean today. Today Mr. Mercer called me. She glanced at Caleb. Of course he did. Caleb leaned against his pickup. Good to see you too, Vanessa. She ignored him and opened the binder. Stonehaven has a recorded right of passage across this property. Sentinel is providing contracted community security. This is a civil access dispute, not a law enforcement issue. Reeves nodded. Could be a civil dispute. That does not answer why private security is running a checkpoint here after the landowner told them to leave. Vanessa turned several pages. Because abandoning an established route could prejudice the association's position. Caleb looked at Derek. Derek was no longer smiling. Reeves held out his hand. Show me the easement. Vanessa gave him a copy. This is the controlling document. Reeves read the relevant paragraph. County fire, medical, and other authorized emergency services during official emergency response. He looked up. Where does it say homeowners association? Vanessa answered quickly. The language has to be considered in context. Where does it say private security? That is precisely what council is reviewing. County council reviewed it yesterday. Vanessa's jaw tightened. County council does not represent Stonehaven. Correct. But you still have not shown me anything giving Sentinel routine patrol authority on this ranch. She closed the binder. We have months of established use. Caleb finally stepped forward and opened the manila envelope. After I told you no. He handed Reeves the first email, then the certified notice, then the delivery receipt. Vanessa looked at the papers. We disputed his interpretation. Caleb handed over the second notice. You disputed that one too. Reeves looked at the dates. Mrs. Whitmore, when I called you 4 days ago, what did I tell you? You suggested we pause operations. I told you not to expand activity here while the records were being reviewed. And I told you our legal position remained unchanged. Reeves pointed toward the checkpoint. Was this here when we spoke? Vanessa did not answer. Derek did. No. Reeves looked at him. The camera? No. Barrier? No. Signs? Derek shook his head. Vanessa turned toward him. Derek, you do not need to answer for board decisions. Derek stared at her. I am answering for my crew standing out here. That was the first time Caleb heard real irritation in his voice. You told me this morning we were cleared to maintain access. You were instructed to preserve the association's position. You told me the property documents supported it. They do. Derek pointed at the easement in Reeves's hand. Where? Vanessa said nothing. Reeves broke the silence. Whatever claim Stonehaven believes it has can go through the proper process. Until you produce something different, this document does not give these guards authority to control traffic on Mr. Mercer's ranch. He pointed at the barrier. Take it down. Derek nodded immediately. You heard him. The younger guards moved without argument. One unfastened the camera. Another pulled the first sign from the ground. Vanessa stepped toward Reeves. Removing that checkpoint could damage our legal position. Reeves looked at her. Putting it here did not create one. Behind them, the barrier folded and disappeared into the back of a Sentinel vehicle. Derek's phone buzzed. He looked down at the screen and frowned. What? Vanessa asked. Derek did not answer her. He handed the phone to Reeves. You should probably see this. Reeves read the message, then passed the phone to Caleb. It was an email Vanessa had sent Derek that afternoon, hours after she knew the county was reviewing the easement. The wording was brief. Maintain access until our rights are formally challenged. Caleb looked up. Formally challenged. He reached into the envelope, pulled out the certified delivery receipt, and held it beside the phone. What did you think these were? Derek looked from the receipt to Vanessa. You told us he was just complaining. Vanessa's face tightened. Do not mischaracterize what I said. I have crews on his ranch because you told me we had the right to be here. Sentinel was following board direction. No, Derek said. Sentinel was following you. Nobody spoke for a moment. Reeves handed the phone back to Derek. Save that email. Save every instruction you received about this property. Derek nodded. Vanessa started to object, but Reeves turned toward her. You can make your argument to your attorney and your board. Right now, your security company is leaving Mr. Mercer's ranch. Caleb watched the last sign go into the back of the Sentinel vehicle. He had imagined this moment more than once over the previous 3 months. He thought he might feel victorious. Instead, he mostly felt tired. Derek walked over to him before getting into his vehicle. For what it is worth, I thought we had clearance. Caleb looked at him. At first, I believed you. Derek glanced toward Vanessa. Yeah, me too. Then he got into the Sentinel vehicle, turned it around, and followed the other guards toward the eastern gate. Vanessa remained beside her white sport utility vehicle with the binder still pressed against her chest. Across the road, Thomas Hale's name appeared on Caleb's phone. He was calling from Stonehaven. Caleb answered. Thomas did not bother with hello. Caleb, what just happened out there? Caleb watched the last black vehicle cross back over the property line. I think your board is about to have a very long meeting. The long meeting started 2 nights later. Thomas Hale called it after 3 board members joined his request for a special session. And this time Vanessa Whitmore was not the person controlling the agenda. Caleb did not attend the closed portion. He did not need to. Before the meeting, he sent Thomas copies of the county survey, the emergency easement, both certified notices, the delivery receipts, photographs of the changed lock, and the county attorney's review. Derek Sloan sent Sentinel's records separately, including Vanessa's email ordering him to maintain access. By the time the public session opened, nearly 80 Stonehaven residents had filled the community room. Caleb took the same chair in the back row where he had sat weeks earlier. Vanessa sat at the board table, but the polished confidence was gone. Thomas opened with a simple statement. We are here because the board needs to determine what authority was actually approved, what authority was represented to our contractor, and how association money was spent. Vanessa leaned toward her microphone. Before this turns into a trial, I want the record to reflect that every decision I made was intended to protect Stonehaven. A homeowner near the front raised his hand. Did protecting Stonehaven require changing a lock on somebody else's ranch? A few people murmured. Thomas asked everyone to let the board finish. He then displayed the easement on the screen. No dramatic interpretation was necessary. The language was right there. Emergency services. Official emergency response. Thomas turned toward Vanessa. When did you first receive this document? Vanessa looked down at her binder. I do not recall the exact date. Thomas placed the county request receipt beside it on the screen. We do. The room went quiet. The date was weeks before Vanessa had described the road as established Stonehaven access. Another board member asked, why did Sentinel continue after Mr. Mercer sent written notice? Vanessa answered that council had not completed its review. Caleb heard someone behind him whisper, then why did they put up a checkpoint? That was the question Vanessa never answered cleanly. She talked about preserving rights, avoiding security gaps, and protecting residents. Then Thomas read her email to Derek. Maintain access until our rights are formally challenged. He placed Caleb's certified notice beside it. This was delivered before that email, Thomas said. Vanessa leaned forward. I believed his position was legally incorrect. That is not the issue, Thomas replied. The issue is that you told the board access was established while the ownership question was still disputed, and then expanded operations after the sheriff asked you not to. Vanessa looked toward Caleb for the first time. You turned a 7-mile patrol shortcut into a public spectacle. Caleb stood slowly. No. Vanessa, I told you no. You turned it into everything after that. He sat back down. There was nothing else he needed to say. The board spent the next week reviewing invoices, meeting minutes, Sentinel communications, and legal expenses. Sentinel suspended all operations on Mercer Ridge and later confirmed in writing that its employees would not enter the property without Caleb's permission or a valid emergency purpose. Stonehaven reimbursed Caleb for the documented costs caused by the gate interference, including the extra ranch mileage and replacement expenses. More importantly to Caleb, the board formally corrected its records. Mercer Ridge was not a Stonehaven security corridor. At the next special meeting, the board voted to remove Vanessa as president. It also adopted a new policy requiring documented legal authority before association contractors could operate beyond Stonehaven property. Vanessa remained in the room through the vote. She did not argue when the result was announced. She closed her binder, stood, and walked out past the homeowners she had once assured that the road was already theirs to use. Caleb watched her leave, then slipped out before the meeting ended. He had cattle to check before dark. By early summer, Mercer Ridge sounded like itself again. No radios crackled beside the creek. No black security vehicles waited near the cattle pens. Tyler could haul livestock through the secondary gate without calling anybody for clearance. One afternoon, he found Caleb installing a small sign beside it. Tyler read it aloud. Private ranch. Emergency access by recorded easement. He looked at Caleb. That all? Seems like enough. Tyler nodded toward an old Stonehaven security sign lying in the bed of Caleb's pickup. What are you doing with that? Caleb glanced at it. Keeping it. Souvenir. Evidence has better memories than people. Tyler laughed. There is the cheerful rancher I know. A few days later, shortly after noon, Caleb's phone rang. It was the county dispatch office notifying him that an ambulance was approaching the emergency route toward northern Stonehaven. Caleb was already near the east pasture. He drove to the gate and opened it before the ambulance arrived. The vehicle crossed Mercer Ridge without stopping and disappeared over the rise. No forms, no argument, no security screening. Just the road doing exactly what Caleb's father had intended it to do. Tyler, standing beside the fence, watched it go. Funny, he said. You did not ask them for Stonehaven clearance. Caleb looked at him. Must have forgotten. They both laughed. Caleb closed the gate after the ambulance passed, then rested one hand on the post. Beyond the fence, a Sentinel vehicle traveled along a Stonehaven street. It reached the eastern boundary, turned, and continued through the subdivision. 3 months earlier, Derek's crews had crossed that line as if using Caleb's road often enough could make it theirs. Vanessa had believed paperwork could be stretched until it said what she needed. Caleb had almost made the opposite mistake. He had spent too long believing that if he explained the boundary clearly enough, everyone would respect it. In the end, explanations had not stopped them. The deed had mattered. The survey had mattered. The cameras, notices, receipts, meeting minutes, and one careless email had mattered. But none of those things had created Caleb's rights. They had only documented what had been true from the beginning. Tyler climbed into his truck and started the engine. You coming? In a minute. Caleb watched the empty gravel road for another moment. Then he looked down at the black survey marker beside the fence. It was the same marker Derek had glanced at during that first patrol months earlier. It had never moved. Caleb closed the gate, climbed into his pickup, and headed back toward the cattle.